All right, we're going to finish up page 2 of the Form 1040 for Thomas Peterson. Here in the previous video, we took a look at filling out the top part and then his income, adding that up, subtracting out his standard deduction, and getting to his taxable income, which is $48,879. This is how much his tax will be based on, is the $48,879. And we need to know his filing status, which is single. At this point, we can go into the tax tables, and we're going to look up 48. Oopsie. What did I do? We go. Okay, so again, notice that it says tax table and what year it's for, and so we're on the correct page. And we're in the 48,000 section. We need 48,879. So we look down here, and we see that 48,879 would fit between at least 48,850, but less than 48,900. So that's the row we're going to go, and he's single, okay, and so that's the column that we'll use, and so that's 6370. 6370 is the amount of tax liability that he has. So that goes on line 16, the tax is 6370. Okay, line 17, amount from Schedule 2. Those are additional taxes. We'll talk about those in the future. Line 18, add lines 16 and 17, 6370 and 0 is 6370. Line 19 is a child tax credit. He doesn't have any children, so there is no child tax credit. And line 20 is amount from Schedule 3. These are some other credits besides the child tax credit that he might have. And we have a whole chapter on credits. We'll talk about those in the future. So he doesn't have any of those either. And so line 21, add lines 19 and 20, so 0 and 0 is 0. And for the most part, unless they tell you, like this line 22, if 0 or less, enter 0. If they don't say that, and you have a 0, like 19, 20, and 21 are all 0, you just leave it blank. Okay, so we're going to go to line 22. Subtract line 21, which is basically 0, from line 18. So 6370 minus 0 is 6370. Okay? And it says, but if it was 0, like if line 21 was 7,000, then line 18 minus 7,000 would be a negative number. It would be less than 0. In that case, you would put a 0 there. All right, line 23, other taxes, including self-employment tax from Schedule 2. Again, we'll talk about that in the future. We don't have any now, so we leave that blank. Line 24, add lines 22 and 23. So 6370 plus 0 is 6370. This is your total tax liability. Okay? The next section is payments. So the first line, line 25, is the federal income tax withheld from Form W-2. Okay? So when we go back, Our federal income tax withheld is box 2 of our W-2. That's $98.51. Okay, we didn't have any tax withheld from Form 1099. We had a Form 1099. There's various different kinds. This one was a 1099 INT. But box 4, federal income tax withheld, is blank. So we didn't have any there. If we did, that would go on line 25B. If we had any other kinds of forms that had income tax withheld, those amounts would go there. Line 25D, it says add lines 25A through line 25C. So these three added together, and that is still $98.51. Line 26, estimated tax payments and an amount applied from last year. Okay, so estimated tax payments usually for our class are going to happen if Thomas was self-employed. If he had his own business, then he would have to pay out estimated tax payments. He doesn't have that, so we just leave that blank. Line 27 through line 32, or line 31 anyways, are these are refundable, what's known as refundable credits. And we will talk about those in the future. Okay, so we go to line 33. It says add lines 25D, which is our 98.51, plus 26 and plus 32. These are total payments. So 98.51 plus 0 is 98.51. Okay, so now we go into if we're getting a refund, or the next section down, if we owe more out to the IRS. So how do we tell which status we are? Well, we paid in, or Thomas paid in, $98.51 into the IRS during the course of the year. His tax liability for this year was $63.70. So he paid in more than what he should have. So he's going to get a refund. That extra stuff is going to be a refund. So $98.51 minus $63.70 is $34.81. He paid $34.81 too much, so that he is going to get that as a refund. Now, on line 35A, it says how much of line 34, your refund, do you want actually refunded to you? Well, that seems strange. It's like, well, I want all of it. But there are situations, especially if Thomas had his own business, where he might want to apply some of his refund toward those estimated payments that he has to pay, as opposed to getting it back in his hand. And then him having to turn around and make out a check to the IRS for the estimated payments. He can just take this part of this refund and apply it towards what he owes. Okay, so, but until we get to that stage, the self-employment stage, which is toward the end of the semester, you're going to assume that if there is a refund, then we want it all. So on 35A, you will again put $34.81. If you have a refunded 34 and then you have nothing in 35A, I'm going to assume you don't want your refund, and you'll get a bunch of points off for that. Okay? Now, here they give us the routing number and the account number if Thomas wants this $34.81 deposited directly into his checking or savings account, direct deposit, electronic deposit, then he can give that information. Otherwise, if that information is not here, then the IRS automatically assumes that he wants a paper check mailed to him, and it will be mailed up here to his address. Line 36. How much of line 34 do you want to apply to your 2023 estimated tax? Again, if he was self-employed, part of that $34.81, or maybe even all of it, he would want to apply it to his estimated tax and not get a refund or not get a full refund. All right, now, if, let's say that Thomas, on his Form W-2, Box 2, okay, let's say that that was only $28.51 instead of $98.51. So here, here, and here would have been $28.51, but he has tax liability of $63.70. So he would owe $3,591 in that case, because he didn't pay in enough to cover what his taxes were for the year. This can happen if somebody told Thomas, oh yeah, just put down that you're exempt from taxes, okay? And this was happening a lot when you fill out the W-4 form for your employer, and you put down that you have 9 allowances. In the past, the new W-4 forms are different, but they still are using the old ones if you were grandfathered in. So a lot of people who put 9 down, all of a sudden they were owing thousands of dollars to the IRS because not enough was being taken out of their check. Plus, that is against the law. It is considered fraud, and you could go to jail for it. So you need to fill out your W-4 correctly. Some people are entitled to have 9 allowances. People who get child tax credit and earned income credit and some of these larger credits, they very well might be, but that doesn't mean everybody is. So Thomas has to not just take somebody else's word about what he should put on his W-4, because they're not going to go to jail for him, and they're not going to be the one that has to pay the thousands of dollars. So be careful when you're doing that. But if Thomas owed any money, there would be nothing on line 34 or line 35, but how much he owed would be on line 37. Again, he can put in the routing number and account number, and the IRS would take the money directly out electronically of his account for the amount that he owed. Third-party designee, that is if Thomas wants somebody else to be able to talk with the IRS. So if the IRS has a question, Thomas is giving his pre-approved notice that the IRS can call this particular person, and there's a PIN number that has to be put in. That person has to give the IRS the correct PIN number, and then the IRS would talk to that person instead of Thomas, or in addition to